They sent me to a 50-year-old mafia boss to settle a debt. They expected him to laugh. They expected him to throw me back. They expected him to make me disappear. But what he did instead shattered everything I thought I knew about my worth. I always knew my stepfamily saw me as dead weight, but I didn't know they saw me as currency. The night it happened, I was in the kitchen scrubbing burnt grease from a pan while my stepmother and stepbrother argued in hushed, desperate tones in the next room. Their voices carried that particular pitch of panic that comes from owing dangerous people more than you can ever repay. I kept my head down. They were always gambling, always scheming, always drowning in debt they blamed on everyone but themselves. Celine. My stepmother's voice cut through the air like a blade. Get in here. Stay with me until the end, because this story will shock you to the core. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video. Hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Now! I dried my hands and walked into the living room. Four men in tailored black suits stood near the doorway. Not businessmen. Enforcers. My chest tightened. My stepmother gestured toward me with a brittle smile. This is her. One of the men, tall, scarred, expressionless, looked me over slowly. His gaze lingered on my body in a way that made my skin crawl. She'll do, he said. Do for what? I asked, though dread was already pooling in my stomach. My stepbrother snorted. You're going with them. I stared. What? Why? My stepmother's eyes were cold, empty. Because we owe Mr. Fiorentino a significant amount of money. And you're not exactly useful here. Useful. The word landed like a punch. I'd spent years cooking their meals, cleaning their mess, staying small and quiet, hoping one day they'd see me as family. Now I knew the truth. I was inventory. You're giving me away? My voice cracked. Don't be dramatic, my stepmother said. You should be grateful. A man like Gaston Fiorentino would never notice someone like you otherwise. Someone like me. Fat. Forgettable. Unworthy. Invisible. You can't do this, I whispered. We already did. She nodded at the men. Take her. And tell Mr. Fiorentino the debt is cleared. The scarred man stepped forward and grabbed my arm. I jerked back. No, wait. Let's go. His grip was iron. I twisted, pulled, begged. My stepmother turned away. My stepbrother checked his phone. No one moved to stop them. No one even looked at me. They dragged me out into the night. The SUV's engine hummed beneath me like a predator purring. I couldn't stop shaking. My hands twisted in my lap, fingers numb from how tightly I'd been gripping them. The leather seat was cold against my back, and the air smelled like expensive cologne and barely concealed violence. Please, I whispered. Just tell me what's going to happen. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Nothing. No sympathy. No reassurance. Just cold assessment. The scarred man in the passenger seat lit a cigarette. The smell of smoke filled the car. He cracked the window just enough to let the ash fly out, but not enough to let me feel like I could breathe. I thought about jumping out. The door wasn't locked. I could see the little post sticking up. But we were going too fast, and even if I survived the fall, where would I run? Into the dark woods lining the road? Back to the family that sold me? My stepmother's words echoed in my head. You're not exactly useful here. I blinked hard, forcing the tears back. I wouldn't cry. Not in front of them. Not yet. The SUV turned onto a private road, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Ahead, iron gates loomed 12 feet tall, crowned with sharp spikes. Guards in black stepped aside as the gates swung open with a low, mechanical groan. Beyond them, the mansion rose like something out of a Gothic novel. Stone walls, arched windows glowing amber from within, ivy crawling up the sides. It was beautiful. Terrifying. A fortress built to keep the world out or prisoners in. The car stopped in front of massive double doors. The engine cut off. Silence pressed in around me. Out, the scarred man said. I didn't move. Couldn't. He opened my door and grabbed my arm, hauling me onto the gravel. My legs buckled. He steadied me with a hand that felt like iron wrapped in skin. The front doors opened, and he stepped out. Gaston Fiorentino. 50 years old, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal suit that looked like it cost more than my stepfamily's house. His hair was silver, combed back from a face carved from stone and time. His eyes, pale gray, sharp as blades, swept over me with the precision of a man who missed nothing. I waited for the sneer, the disgust, the dismissal. Instead, his voice came low and steady, cutting through the night air like a verdict. Bring her to my study. The study smelled like old leather and whiskey. Bookshelves lined every wall, floor to ceiling, filled with volumes that looked like they'd been there for generations. A fireplace crackled softly in the corner, casting dancing shadows across the Persian rug beneath my feet. The guards pushed me inside. I stumbled forward, catching myself before I fell. Gaston entered behind me, his footsteps measured and deliberate. He moved like a man who'd never rushed for anything in his life, because nothing and no one made him wait. Leave us, he said. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a prison lock. I stood frozen in the center of the room, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack a rib. He walked around me slowly, hands clasped behind his back. I could feel his gaze moving over me, assessing, calculating, deciding. Céline Ledier. His voice was deep, textured with age and authority. I nodded, not trusting my voice. 29 years old. Another nod. Given to me as payment for a debt your stepfamily could not honor. I swallowed hard. I didn't agree to that. I know. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Do you know why they sent you? The shame was instant, burning through my chest and up into my face. I looked down at the rug, at the intricate patterns I couldn't focus on through the blur of humiliation. Because they think I'm worthless, I whispered. The silence stretched. I could hear the fire crackling, my own shallow breathing, the ticking of a clock somewhere in the room. Then his hand appeared in my line of vision, calloused, scarred across the knuckles, but steady. He placed 2 fingers beneath my chin and lifted gently but firmly until I had no choice but to look at him. His eyes were steel and smoke. Unreadable. Unyielding. You are not worthless, he said. My breath caught. You are not a punishment. You are not trash. You are not something to be traded like livestock. Each word landed with the weight of stone. You are under my protection now. I stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. No one touches you, he continued, his voice dropping lower, quieter, but somehow more dangerous. No one insults you. No one uses you. Why? The word escaped before I could stop it. Why would you protect me? He held my gaze, his thumb brushing once along my jawline before he released me. Because I decide what has value in my house, he said. Not them. I woke to sunlight streaming through curtains I didn't remember closing. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it all came rushing back, the SUV, the fortress, Gaston's words echoing in my head. You are under my protection now. The bedroom was enormous. 4-poster bed with silk sheets, antique dresser, a window overlooking gardens that seemed to stretch forever. On the chair beside the bed sat a neatly folded dress, pale blue, simple but expensive. A note rested on top in precise handwriting. * breakfast at 8. Rosa will collect you. *. A knock came at exactly 8 o'clock. Miss Ledier? A woman's voice, accented and warm. May I come in? I opened the door to find a woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun. Her eyes were kind but assessing, the way a mother looks at a child who's stumbled home after dark. I'm Rosa, she said. The housekeeper. Mr. Fiorentino asked me to bring you down for breakfast. I followed her through hallways lined with oil paintings and marble busts. The house was silent except for the soft pad of our footsteps and the distant sound of birds outside. How long have you worked here? I asked, desperate to fill the quiet. 32 years. Rosa glanced back at me with a small smile. I raised Mr. Fiorentino's daughter. Well, helped raise her before. She stopped herself, the smile fading. Before things changed. We entered a sunlit dining room. A table set for one. Coffee, fresh fruit, pastries that smelled like heaven. Gaston was nowhere to be seen. Rosa poured my coffee with practiced ease. He eats at 6, she said, answering my unasked question. Old habits from his Navy days. He doesn't sleep much. Does he? I hesitated. Does he always take in people like this? Rosa's hand paused over the sugar bowl. She looked at me carefully, weighing her words. Mr. Fiorentino hasn't brought anyone into this house in 15 years. Not since his wife died. She set the sugar down gently. The house has been silent for a very long time, Miss Lettier. Too silent. Then why me? She studied me for a long moment, something like sadness crossing her face. Perhaps because he sees something your family was too blind to notice. Rosa smoothed her apron. Or perhaps because a man can only live like a ghost for so long before he forgets he's still alive. I spent the afternoon exploring the gardens, trying to make sense of my new reality. Stone pathways wound between hedges trimmed into perfect geometric shapes. Roses bloomed in shades of crimson and white, their scent heavy in the warm air. It was beautiful. Suffocating. Like living inside a painting. I rounded a corner near the greenhouse and heard voices, low, male, laced with amusement. Did you see her? One of the guards from last night. I recognized his voice. That's what the old man's protecting now? Another laugh, crueler. I give it a week before he realizes what a mistake he made. She's not exactly his type. She's not anyone's type. I mean, look at her. They probably paid him to take her off their hands. My feet froze. My chest tightened like someone had wrapped a fist around my lungs. Maybe he's going soft. 15 years alone will do that to a man. Or maybe he's just bored. Needs a new project. Something to. What did you just say? The new voice cut through the air like a blade through silk. Cold. Quiet. Lethal. I pressed myself against the hedge, my heart in my throat. Footsteps on gravel. Then silence so thick I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. Mr. Fiorentino, one of the guards stammered. We were just. Repeat what you said. Gaston's voice hadn't risen, but somehow it filled all the space around us. Ice wrapped in velvet. About the woman under my protection. Sir, we didn't mean. You didn't mean to disrespect me? To question my judgment? To mock someone I have explicitly placed under my care? The silence stretched. I barely dared to breathe. There are two types of men in this world, Gaston continued, each word measured and deliberate. Those who understand that value is not determined by appearance. And those who are too stupid to work for me. A pause. Which are you? Sir, we. You're done. Both of you. Collect your things and be gone within the hour. If I see either of your faces on my property after that, it won't be a conversation. Footsteps retreated quickly, scrambling on gravel. I stayed pressed against the hedge, trembling. After a long moment, Gaston's voice came again, softer this time, but no less certain. You can come out now, Celine. Q. He knew I'd been there the whole time. I stepped out from behind the hedge, my face burning with shame. Gaston stood on the pathway, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. I'm sorry, I said quickly. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I was just walking and... You have nothing to apologize for. He gestured down a side path I hadn't noticed before. Walk with me. It wasn't a question. We walked in silence through an archway covered in climbing vines into a smaller, more intimate garden. A fountain burbled in the center, surrounded by stone benches worn smooth by time. The walls were high here, blocking out everything beyond them. Private. Hidden. Gaston sat on one of the benches, surprising me. He looked almost normal. Just a man sitting in a garden. Not a king. Not a killer. Sit, he said. I sat at the far end of the bench, leaving space between us. They weren't wrong, you know, I said quietly, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Your guards. I swallowed hard. I'm not the kind of woman men like you notice. I'm not beautiful. I'm not. I'm just extra weight. That's what my stepfamily always said. Extra weight taking up space. The fountain filled the silence. I couldn't look at him. Do you know what I see when I look at you? Gaston's voice was quiet but firm. I shook my head. I see a woman who survived a family that should have protected her but chose cruelty instead. I see someone with a degree, with dreams, with a mind they tried to bury under their own failures. He shifted, and I felt his presence closer. I see someone they were too blind and too stupid to value. My throat tightened. You are not extra weight, Celine. You are not a burden. You are not the lies they told you to make themselves feel less guilty for what they did. His hand appeared in my peripheral vision, palm up, and offering not a demand. You are far more valuable than any of them will ever be. And if you stay here, you will learn that. Not because I'm kind, but because it's the truth. I stared at his hand, scarred, steady, patient. Slowly, I placed mine in his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and certain. Welcome home, Celine. 3 weeks passed. The fortress became less intimidating and more like home. Rosa taught me which halls had the best light in the morning. I found a library on the 3rd floor with a window seat perfect for reading. Gaston and I fell into a rhythm, breakfast together now, quiet conversations over coffee, walks in the garden at dusk. He never touched me beyond that first hand-holding. Never pushed. Never demanded. But I felt his presence everywhere, like gravity I couldn't escape. Tonight, he'd asked me to join him in his study after dinner. I found him standing by the window, glass of whiskey in hand, staring out at the darkening grounds. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves. It was the most undone I'd ever seen him. You wanted to see me? I said from the doorway. He turned, and something in his expression made my breath catch. Not anger. Not coldness. Something rawer. Come in. Close the door. I did, my pulse quickening. He drained the whiskey and set the glass down with more force than necessary. I need to tell you something, and I need you to understand what it means. I waited. I built this life on control, he said, his voice low and measured. Every decision calculated. Every emotion locked away. For 15 years, I've been a machine. Efficient. Untouchable. Safe. He turned to face me fully. And then you arrived. My heart hammered. You make me feel human again, Celine. The words came out rough, like they'd been dragged from somewhere deep. You make me laugh. You make me want to sit across a table just to hear you talk about books you've read. You make me want to protect something other than territory and money. That sounds good, I said carefully. His jaw tightened. In my world, it's dangerous. Men like me don't have weaknesses. We can't afford them. Every rival, every enemy, every ambitious lieutenant is always watching for the crack in the armor. He stepped closer. You're that crack, Celine. The words should have hurt. Instead, they felt like truth wrapped in warning. I won't apologize for caring about you, he continued. But you need to understand what that means. It means you're a target now. It means staying close to me puts you in more danger than your stepfamily ever could. Then why tell me? I whispered. Because you deserve the choice they never gave you. His eyes held mine. Stay or leave. But know what you're choosing. I didn't leave. The question didn't even feel real. Where would I go? Back to a family that sold me? Into a world that had never wanted me? But more than that, I didn't want to leave. 2 days after Gaston's confession, Rosa found me in the library. She carried a photo album, leather-bound and worn at the edges. He doesn't know I kept this, she said quietly, setting it on the table beside me. But I think you should see it. To understand. She left before I could ask what she meant. I opened the album carefully. The first page showed a younger Gaston, maybe 35, less silver in his hair, but the same steel in his eyes. Beside him stood a woman with dark curls and a smile that could light up rooms. She was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she looked alive in a way that made the photograph seem too small to contain her. I turned the pages. Wedding photos. A little girl with her mother's curls. Family dinners. Christmases. A life. The last photo showed all three of them in this very garden. The little girl, maybe 5 years old, sat on Gaston's shoulders, laughing. His wife stood beside them, her hand on his arm, looking at him like he was her entire world. Her name was Isabella. I jumped. Gaston stood in the doorway, his face carefully neutral. Rosa shouldn't have, I started. Rosa was right. He crossed the room and sat across from me, looking at the album like it might bite him. You should know. What happened? Car accident. Black ice. She was taking our daughter, Lucia, to ballet. His voice was flat, clinical, like he was reporting facts instead of reliving trauma. Isabella died instantly. Lucia died 2 days later in the hospital. She was 6. My chest tightened. Gaston, I closed the house after that, he continued, as if I hadn't spoken. Sent away the staff except Rosa. Stopped hosting dinners. Stopped living. I built walls so high nothing could touch me again. He finally looked at me. And then your stepfamily dragged you into my world, and you sat in my study with fire in your eyes despite your fear, and something I thought was dead. He stopped, his jaw working. You woke something up, Celine. Something I'm not sure I wanted back. I reached across the table and took his hand. He looked down at our joined fingers like they were a puzzle he couldn't solve. Maybe it's time to live again, I whispered. His grip tightened. Maybe. He's fine. He's in a meeting downtown. Marco glanced toward the hallway, then back at me. That's why we're here. He wouldn't tell you this himself. Too proud. Too afraid of scaring you off. I set down the vase slowly. Tell me what? Ryan pulled out his phone and showed me a series of photographs. Me in the garden. Me walking with Rosa to the market. Me sitting by the fountain reading. All taken from a distance, all within the last week. The Marconi family, Ryan said. Gaston's oldest rivals. They've had surveillance on the property since you arrived. The room tilted. Why? Because in 15 years, the boss hasn't given a damn about anyone, Marco said bluntly. He's been ice. Untouchable. Impossible to manipulate or threaten. Then you show up and suddenly he's firing guards for insulting you. He's taking walks in the garden. He's smiling at breakfast. They think you're leverage, Ryan continued. A way to get to him. And they're right. I sank into a chair, the roses forgotten. What do they want? Territory. Power. The same things everyone in this world wants. Ryan pocketed his phone. But now they have a new strategy. They can't break Gaston through violence or intimidation. So they'll threaten the one thing he's cared about in over a decade. Me, I whispered. You, Marco confirmed. We've increased security. Added cameras. Changed patrol routes. But you need to understand, you're not just a guest here anymore, Miss Ledier. You're a target. My hands trembled in my lap. Does he know you're telling me this? No, Ryan said. But someone needed to. You deserve to know what you're in the middle of. The front door opened. Footsteps in the hall. Gaston's voice calling my name. Marco leaned closer, his voice dropping. The question is, are you strong enough to stay? Because if you run now, it'll destroy him. But if you stay and something happens to you. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Gaston appeared in the doorway, his eyes moving between his men and me. What's going on? I stood, decision crystallizing. Nothing. Just getting to know your team. That night, I couldn't sleep. The photographs haunted me. Strangers watching from shadows, calculating how to use me as a weapon against the one man who'd ever made me feel like I mattered. I found Gaston in his study, papers spread across his desk, a glass of whiskey at his elbow. He looked up when I entered, concern immediately creasing his features. Celine. It's 2 a.m. I know what's happening, I said, closing the door behind me. Ryan and Marco told me about the surveillance. The Marconi family. Everything. His expression hardened. They had no right. They had every right. I crossed the room and stood in front of his desk. You were never going to tell me, were you? You were just going to add more guards, lock me up tighter, protect me like I was made of glass. He stood slowly. I was trying to keep you safe. By keeping me ignorant? My voice rose. I'm not a child, Gaston. I'm not something fragile that needs to be wrapped up and hidden away. I've already been invisible my entire life. I won't be invisible here too. That's not what My stepfamily treated me like I was worthless because I wasn't convenient. I won't let you treat me like I'm precious for the same reason. I moved closer, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. If I'm truly under your protection, then trust me enough to know the truth. All of it. He stared at me, something shifting behind his eyes. Not anger. Recognition. You're right, he said finally. I was protecting myself as much as you. Afraid if you knew how dangerous this was, you'd leave. Would that be so terrible? Losing something you just found. Yes. The word was raw, immediate. It would destroy me. I reached across the desk and took his hand. Then stop trying to shield me from your world. Let me stand beside you in it instead. He came around the desk, his hands framing my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything he was supposed to be. You understand what that means? You'll have enemies. Real ones. I had enemies when I was invisible and powerless, I said. At least now I have you. His forehead touched mine. Untouchable, he whispered. That's what you are now. Mine to protect. Mine too. He stopped himself. Say it. Mine to love. And finally, after weeks of careful distance, he kissed me.